That's right, I figured it out. I know the story behind the Cooking Companion sequel to Red Weight before the game even comes out. And it all started with a joke Mariah ending from Chompet's origins, and I'll get to that, but first, I need to tell you a story. So buckle up, because this is gonna be a long one, so I can really deep dive and cover every single detail I possibly freaking can. By now, I'm sure we all know the most common tale of Koschei the Deathless. He's a lich who hides his soul in vessels, egg, needle, duck, hare, chest, island, to live an unnaturally long life. He kidnaps a general of the Russian army, Maria Marevna. Her husband, Ivan, goes to Baba Yaga for the power to get his wife back, so she gives him a super fast horse. He catches up to Koschei and gets Maria back. But that's not the only story of the undead lich. There is another one, a novel written by Catherine Valente called Deathless, based on the fairy tale of Koschei and the real-world Russian Revolution. So, let me tell you about this story, and listen close, because if you've ever played Cooking Companions or Red Weight, you'll start to see some things looking a little bit familiar. It begins with Maria Marevna, a fierce warrior princess, falling in love with and is to marry the powerful wizard Koschei the Deathless. He whisks her away from her war-plagued home to his huge house on a secret island hidden by the tides, named Buyan. It is here on Koschei's island where Maria makes 3 friends, a gun imp, a leshy, and a villa. She also finds this island to be full of talking animals. On the island, Maria is introduced to Baba Yaga, Koschei's sister, and she gives her 3 tasks to accomplish before Maria is allowed to marry her brother. During this time, Maria learns about the man Koschei has locked in a supernatural slumber in his basement, named Ivan. But she kinda just, moves past it. I mean, who doesn't keep men in their basement? Am I right? No? Okay. Baba Yaga blesses the union of Koschei and Maria, but Koschei's brother, the Tsar of Death, decides to kill everyone on the island. They wage war against death, which feels super metaphorical, but he's actually a real dude, for the next several years, during which Ivan escapes and finds Maria in her encampment, because she's a big general. And she brings him back to her home and falls in love with him while Koschei is gone. They run away together back to the real world, away from the island, to get married. Koschei begs Maria for her back, but she locks him in her basement. Which, I'm just gonna say, locking your ex in your basement, that's not great, okay? Don't do that. Just don't, okay? Their lives become fraught with turmoil as war and famine spreads throughout the region. Starving and on the brink of death, Ivan thinks Maria is hiding food down in the basement, so he takes the chains off the basement door, only to find and free Koschei, who kidnaps Maria back to their hidden magic island. Maria then gets pregnant with Koschei's daughter, because, I guess they're in love again, or something. And the daughter embodies Koschei's death, which I think means she's the only one who can kill him. Because she does. The daughter kills Koschei. When suddenly, Maria wakes up in the Tsar of Bird's nest, who explains that Maria's been living inside of a freaking dream, inside of an egg. Inside of an egg. An egg. Maria, now woke, returns to the world of men, the actual real world, and finds her other husband, Ivan, dying of starvation in their old house. Love is rekindled, but then he dies, causing Maria to join the Red Army to fight against everything and everyone that caused her love harm. Okay, now that I've told you that story, I know you know where this is going. Let's use it to piece together the story of Red Weight, okay? Let's begin with the setting. Cooking Companions is confirmed to take place in the Tatras Mountains during the early 1930s. The canonical Abyss ending has Baba Yaga and Potato ravaging the surrounding area for decades, which becomes known as the Summer of Rain. This puts the time frame of Dreadweight anywhere from the 1950s to the 1990s, but we can narrow this down with information given to us from the game. For instance, Gazella mentions the TV show The Sandman, which began airing in both East and West Germany in late 1959. We also get hints from Demitri that the game takes place after World War II when Germany is split into East and West when he says his parents are from the East and his name is super uncommon there. One last clue as to the date this game takes place is due to the fact that Kurt has this as his gun. Because, like he states multiple friggin' times, it's not a gun. It's not a gun. It's not a regular gun. It's not a gun, okay? This is a tranquilizer gun, which was invented in 1959. And we can relate this game back to the story of Deathless because Maria goes back to Crochet's Island decades after the Russian Revolution, which ended in 1923, which then lines up with 1959. But what about the location? The island in the story is called Beyond, which does not exist. However, according to scholars like this guy, I'm not even going to attempt to butcher that name, Beyond's real-life counterpart is an island north of Germany in the Baltic Sea, known as Rügen. And this isn't a coincidence. Demitri straight up tells us that we had to cross the Baltic Sea to get to the island we're on. I don't really need any more convincing to say this is the location, but just to throw in an interesting and very coincidental fun fact out there. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, the chief industry of the island of Rügen is herring fishing. Specifically, red herring fishing. We all know that Deirdre loves a good red herring. Every time we ask them about the dreams of cooking companions, they would say, "What is a red herring?" Again, it is just a coincidence, and I don't even know if, Deirdre knows this, but I just thought it was really cool, okay? Now, let me have this. Moving on to the characters. In Valente's story, we have Crochet the Deathless, Baba Yaga, Prince Ivan, Maria Marevna, the three nymphs, the Tsar of Death, Crochet's daughter, and the Tsar of the Bird's Nest. I think that we can cleanly place each of these characters from the story to line up with characters from Dreadweight. Let's go in the order we encounter them, starting with Baba Yaga. It is confirmed we canonically play as Baba Yaga in Cooking Companions, and now in part of Dreadweight. Easy peasy. Potato, the butcher of Zakopane, convinces Baba Yaga to leave her cabin, bringing death and destruction to anyone and everyone she crosses paths with. This leads me to line up Potato with Tsar of Death, the embodiment of death in battle with Crochet and Baba Yaga in the story, just like Potato is in Dreadweight. He's also been the one convincing Baba Yaga to kill, to destroy, and eat, to bring death upon the world, so that lines up with Tsar of Death. But who could Maria be? Well, I'm convinced she's the one who we play as opposite of Baba Yaga. Let me explain. Here's all we know about the not Baba Yaga protagonist. Discord user Toag in the Deardream Studios Discord made a list of what we know about the protagonist for easy access. Thanks, dude. Big preach. Number 1, we are female. The other characters do use she, her pronouns with us. Number 2, our name is hidden, suggesting it is important to the lore. I'd also like to throw in that Renata says that our name is really pretty, so... Number 3, we have superhuman strength and speed. We can crush a metal wrench and other metal items with our hands. That should be impossible. Heck, even Gazella is pretty impressed with our strength. And we can run a 5-minute mile, which the current world record of a woman running a mile is 4 minutes and 7 seconds. So while we're not inhumanly fast, that's freaking fast as heck. Okay. Number 4, we're seemingly unable to be killed by anybody, though we do die from eating moldy hardtack, which is really gross. Come on, guys. Number 5, we have heart and memory problems, but we're not the only one, and I think that's pretty important. Okay, talk about it later. Number 6, Kurt claims he chose us for his experiments because we're courageous. Maria is a warrior princess, the definition of courageous. Number 7, the sturdy rope Maximilian gave us to ward off witches has no effect, so we're not a witch. In the folklore, Maria is never described to be a witch. She's just a regular old friggin' human. Given all this evidence, I think we can confidently say we do in fact play as Maria Marevna. And if I'm right, her story is a juicy one in Dreadweight, let me tell you. But I will get to that, do not worry, my child. Speaking of child, we have Crochet and Maria's daughter to figure out. So who are the daughters in these games? Well, there's Selena and Rhina, or some new character we haven't met yet. The daughter in Valente's story is young, kid young, so I'm not including any of the adults. So Karen, Mariah, Renata, no. So let's go through all the times a mother-daughter relationship has ever been mentioned in this game. Number 1, Rhina says her mom can't afford to buy her a new coat every year. Number 2, and I bet you forgot about this one, there's the mother's letter in the bookshelf during Cooking Companions that has a mom begging for her daughter back, saying she'll get the police involved. And to my knowledge, that is literally all the times that we hear about a mom or daughter in these games. But you know what? I think it's just enough because things are kind of connecting. This mother's note can easily be about the Chompettes, because I mean, you're gonna sit there and tell me that none of the Chompettes' parents were sitting around the living room at like freaking Christmas time, and they were just sitting there like, hold on. Where's my kid? But one of their parents did notice their kid was missing, and she somehow knew she was taken by Baba Yaga. How would she have known that unless somebody told her? Maybe her husband and father of her daughter, Kurt? My, that's a jump, I hear you saying. And yeah, it is. But also, Raina's always been just a little bit sus. And okay, a lot sus? Like a lot. She's sus. Why isn't she scared when Baba Yaga shows up? Why doesn't she run away like the other kids? Why does everyone comment on her coat like she's hiding a freaking dead body under there? Wait. Oh my God. She's someone, okay? She's important, and I'm placing my bet that Raina is the daughter to take down Kurt. Also, the mom who sent the letter begging about her daughter is the same person who has been sending letters again in Dreadweight, showing that this person, who I'm saying is Maria, will stop at nothing to take down Baba Yaga for, I think, taking her daughter Raina, which also would give a reason for Maria to be at the mansion because she's looking for her daughter. Oh, okay, back to the book. What about Maria's friends on the island, the three nymphs? Specifically, the mermaid, the fairy, and the leshy. Okay, so remember how in Cooking Companions we had Gregor, Anatoly, Mariah, and Karen, and the first three were just kind of like people, but Karen's dress was the same dress Vasilisa wore in the folklore. Well, it's kind of the same thing here in Dreadweight. Renata, Demitri, and Gazella represent the three nymphs of Valente's story, but one of them has a bit stronger of a connection to an actual character. Can you guess which one? Out of any, can you guess? Maybe one who like stands out a tiny bit more than the others for some reason. Yeah. It's Gazella, and between the mermaid, fairy, and Leshy, there's one that has Gazella written all over them. The Leshy. Okay, so Leshy are spirits of the forest who basically just look like a huge man. Or woman sometimes. They protect the forest basically from the man. They don't like machines or axes being in their forest. Like, Leshy refuse to use tools, preferring to use their bare hands. Just like my girl. Okay, I don't actually think Leshy is wearing camo pants and a tank top, but a Leshy is a type of ghillie suit used in the army as camouflage, so that's pretty cool. Also, I'm just now reading this, but in folklore, the arrival of Leshy was common on the night of Ivan Cupola, which celebrates the arrival of spring, and guess what a common gift to give the Leshy on the night of Ivan was? Just guess. Just give one little guess. An egg! And then we have the talking animals, which, I mean, but next I want to talk about the Tsar of the Bird's Nest, who reveals to Maria that her life with Crochet and all the fantastical creatures she's been with have all been a dream. Not to get too cheesy or meta here, but I'm gonna go ahead and give that title to Dear Dream Studios, because in a way, they were the one to tell us whether or not Maria's time in the mansion is a dream or not. And I think, given our foggy memory in the demo, Dear Dream might play around with us not knowing what's real or not, similar to Cooking Companions, Dreams, and Ghosts. Next one is literally so easy. Ivan. Ivan from the folklore and Deathless is Ivan from the note at the beginning from Kurt. Ivan lines up with Ivan. Ivan is Ivan, and I'll get into his story in a bit. This brings us to our last and probably the most important character, since the story is literally named after him, Crochet the Deathless. And I'm not gonna bury the lead here. I'm pretty sure every single freaking theorist has come to the same conclusion. He's Kurt. And as much as I wanted to convince myself that he wasn't, I have to agree with them. I mean, come on. Both of their names start with the letter K. What more evidence do you even really need? I mean, I'm just joking. Crochet hid his soul inside vessels to extend his life. They are the needle inside of an egg, inside of a duck, inside of a hare, inside of a chest, locked away on an island. And we literally have all these in Dreadweight. We're on an island. Max makes a big deal about the chest. Clover is the hare. Max is the duck. Though I will admit the needle and egg were a little bit tough to, well, not to find, because they're literally right in front of us, but to realize what they were, The egg could be the locket Clover gives us because she says it has something important in it, like a soul, perhaps? And the needle is the gun because it's not a gun like its tranquilizer guns, like I said earlier. And they use needles. Not only that, but Kurt also mentions not liking chains or locks, going back to the story when Koschei was locked up in a basement. Potato says we have to repay him for Ivan and find out about his secret, implied to be about immortality, and in the story of Baba Yaga, the only character it could possibly be in association with Ivan and Baba Yaga is Koschei. So, a combination of evidence along with a process of elimination, we can confidently say, like without a friggin' doubt, that Kurt is Koschei. Kurt is Koschei. But all this to say, it doesn't mean that the story of Koschei and Kurt will be the same. I think Kurt is putting his soul into, like, other people to make perfected soul vessels because too many things are leaning that way. And I'll get into it a bit. I promise. But now that I've introduced the setting and the characters, let's dive into the full story of Dreadwade before the game even releases. Let's go back to the very beginning. We come to a cabin in the woods. Ivan finds his way to Baba Yaga's cabin, and I don't know the reasons, and I don't really think they're that important. Maybe he was looking for the secret too. But what is important is that he doesn't answer Baba Yaga's riddle correctly, so he becomes trapped in her cabin. And, like countless other victims, Baba Yaga locks him in a cage in her basement, represented by this horse up here, because Ivan gets a horse from Baba Yaga, and horse Ivan horse, Ivan's in the basement. Yeah, where he will stay for years to come, slowly being devoured by the witch. But she develops a liking to this one. We know from the story of Raziel and the Chompettes, she has a problem with loneliness in her unending life. She finds companionship in Ivan until another visitor comes along. One who left his wife and daughter to learn about the witch's power. Kurt. Kurt is different though. He's smart, and he doesn't die. This makes him a fun toy for Baba Yaga, who tortures him every day by feeding him deadly poisonous soup. But it doesn't kill him because he's immortal, just gives him a big bad toy. Months of Kurt's torture pass. He even tries to find ways to kill her, like with the mustard gas we see from the note in the bedroom. Though of course, they never work, because she's freaking Baba Yaga. Come on, dude. But one day, Kurt finds his way into the basement Baba Yaga warned him not to go into. This is where he finds Ivan, chained in a cage, barely alive. Kurt heals Ivan by giving him part of his soul, just like he does with the vessels, and helps him escape the witch's cabin. Because he's just a good guy. Baba Yaga returns, finding Ivan gone, and she is pissed. But she can't kill Kurt, and she's tortured him for so long, so she just forces him to leave, because that's kinda all she can do. Now, Kurt, having been freed and allowed another chance at life, returns home to his family in Zakopane, his wife Maria and his daughter Raina. And he tells them everything that happened and shows them the horrible wounds he suffered, which probably, included rotting flesh and really gross looking stuff that you shouldn't really show to your daughter, but that's fine. Which, as you can imagine, traumatized little baby Raina, and is probably the scariest thing she'll ever see. But hey, trauma builds character. Right. But then, like in the folklore, Kurt heads off to his island of Rugen in pursuit of science. Baba Yaga starts to take her anger out on the village of Zakopane, leaving her cabin to find new victims. News spreads around town that the witch in the cabin is immortal and likes to eat babies. And during this time, Kurt sends her the letter asking her to basically get over it and quit being a meanie. But one butcher in particular learns about Kurt's experience and is real interested in what Baba Yaga is doing in her cabin, and he starts to imitate her killings in an attempt to impress her and hopes that one day she'll teach him her secret to everlasting life. Now, obviously, he does not succeed in grabbing Baba Yaga's attention because little baby Raziel comes along. And apparently, Raziel tells Pud so good that he wins over the heart of an ancient cannibalistic witch, and she doesn't even want to eat him anymore. But hey, a girl's gotta eat. Am I right? She eats him. But that little baby boy had family, and his cousin and their friends are big bad detectives. Big bad 10-year-old detectives. 10-year-olds. Babies. who decide to chase down and catch the infamous butcher of Zakopane. And I'm just like, y'all are freaking 5. Go play hide and seek. Don't go catching serial killers. Kids were just built different in Zakopane, I guess. But then the butcher notices what they're doing and chases them into the forest, kinda leading them to the witch's cabin, where they stay the night. Safe from the butcher? Or so they thought. He finds them and he chases them down to the basement where, whoopsies, Baba Yaga kills them all. But remember when I said Kurt told Raina everything about Baba Yaga and how terrifying she is? Well, guess who is the only one not terrified of Baba Yaga and the butcher? The only one courageous enough to face her demons face to face. Because she's been having nightmares about them her whole life. She's pictured this moment for years now, and she knows what happens next. As Raspberry always says, you can't sneak up on her. Okay, hang on. Why am I just now noticing this? Why does the Butcher of Zakopane dress exactly like Kurt? This guy dropped out of elementary school. And you're telling me he's quoting Shakespeare and ancient tomes before he knows his friggin' ABCs. Like, did Kurt put his soul into the butcher? And now he's like got Kurt's brains and he's a smarty pants now? Also, his ears are pointy. He's not human. Oh my god, if I'm saying Kurt put his soul into Potato, and I'm saying that Kurt is Raina's dad, that means that Potato is Raina's dad. Bruh. Anyway, this brings us to the story of Cooking Companions, during which Kurt is making his moves. His next steps are to find the proper candidates for more soul vessels to aid in his research of immortality and protect him from outside sources like the current government, who Renata brings up is watching everything, and also Baba Yaga. First, he hires Demitri, a skilled doctor who understands biology, to aid in his research. He found Demitri in a pretty rough state since his parents were just cremated. And I think Deirdre was being pretty cheeky and hinting at the fact that Demitri is a Kurt vessel, because Demitri specifically says, no coming back once you're cremated. Well, like, you did. You did. Demitri was probably cremated along with his parents, and Kurt put part of his soul in him to bring him back to make him more useful and controllable and manipulated, since he saved him. What a great guy. I don't think Gazella's a Kurt though, because she's a friggin' Leshy. Spirit of the forest, and that's why Kurt hires her for protection, because she's perfect in every single way and you cannot fix perfection, okay? Anyway, it is now the height of the Cold War, and movement and communication is difficult, to say the least, because everything is being controlled and watched by the tyrannical government of the time. So, Kurt needs people who can help him in that aspect, which is why he recruits Renata, an ex-spy killed in prison. He was rich, so he most likely just pays off the warden to get her out. Which brings us to the actual game of Dreadweight. In the demo, we pick up during the Canon Abyss ending from Cooking Companions, where Baba Yaga has ravaged Zakopane with Potato. She goes back to her cabin, rereads the note from Kurt, where he asks her to get over Ivan, and Potato's like, what if we murder him? Also, let me find out how he's immortal, because I want that power. Okay, thanks, bye. So they head off to do just that. Baba Yaga wants to murder Kurt, and Potato was tagging along to learn secret with his first grade reading comprehension, because it's now enhanced by Kurt's soul being inside of his body. It's funny how that works. And then we're on the island. Kurt is reaching down to help the player character, Maria Marevna, up. But why is Maria on the island to begin with? Well, according to the folklore, she is a high-ranking general in the Soviet army, the army that Kurt is worried about stealing his research. Again, this is during the Cold War. This Red Scare kind of thinking was everywhere. The Soviet army knew about what Kurt was doing because of Maria and her previous relationship with him, which I'm getting from the book. And also Kurt sleeps with her in bed, so I'm like, y'all were something before, right? And what better candidate to have for Kurt's army than the head of the army who is trying to stop him? So Maria comes to the island to find Kurt, but he gets to her first, throws his soul into her, and bam, she's Kurt now. And I imagine the logistics of having someone else's soul put into your body makes you kind of lose part of yours. So, like, that kind of explains the bad memory thing that we have during Dreadweight. And Maria doesn't recognize him because, like, she died, and your mind is probably pretty foggy after coming back, right? Also, like, man, what kind of ego do you have to have for you to be like, you know what this world needs more of? Me? And he just, like, kills people to make soul vessels for himself. Like, what's his endgame? Whoops, all Kurt. Well, no, his endgame is perfecting his immortality, since splitting his soul makes him lose part of it each time, and eventually there will be nothing. And he has the foggy memory, so he's trying to get rid of the negative side effect of creating these soul vessels. So, Baba Yaga is trying to kill Kurt by killing off his friends and using their souls as ghosts against him. But I predict that she'll have to ultimately team up with Raspberry to do so, because she is the key to taking down her father, according to Valente's story. And I'm sure there will be different endings too. One where Baba Yaga succeeds in killing Kurt, one where Maria regains her memory and realizes what's going on, and maybe she kills everyone, and you know what? Good for her. There might be an ending where Potato succeeds in figuring out the secret to immortality, but I'm not sure the consequences of that because he is a potato. And I think basically the last ending is where Kurt succeeds and goes on to basically take over the world government, Doctor Doom style. I'm gonna take a shot in the dark and say the canon ending will be Baba Yaga killing Kurt. She's honestly such a girl boss, and I want nothing but success for her. Ghastly gatekeep girl boss queen, Baba Yaga. But that's the story. Kurt is making an army of little hymns to influence world governments. Baba Yaga wants him dead because he released Ivan from her basement. And Potato is trying to learn how to become a supernatural immortal being just because he wants power. It's a story of two ancient undying beings at war over, honestly, for them, pretty petty stuff. But they are too full of themselves to realize the extreme consequences regular people face from their childish bickering. Baba Yaga was mad at Kurt, so she took it out on the city of Zakopane, killing pretty much everyone, and Kurt just, like, kills whoever for his research? And I'm saying this because realizing that everyday regular people get caught up in magical people's mess is what freaking started this whole freaking theory video. Like I said at the beginning, Dear Dream already told us step by step the overarching narrative of Cooking Companions and Dreadweight and any other sequels. In the joke ending given to us in the Chompette's origins, Mariah kills Baba Yaga and starts basically the NATO of people against dangerous supernatural beings in order to defend the innocent lives lost because of their crazy battles. But, like, Maria. I don't even know if I called Maria, or because I was reading it and I think I might have, I don't know what I did, but I think I might have just said, in the Maria ending, but it's Mariah, in the Mariah ending, but that's what I'm saying, they sound so similar. Maria, like, it was right there. Maria had her husband taken away by his arrogance, thinking his research was more important than their family. She lost her daughter to Baba Yaga. Her entire city was meaninglessly destroyed when they were already dealing with the horrors of famine and the world wars and strict government surveillance. I mean, Maria has more than enough reason to want to start her own army to fight them and others like them, so no one else will have to go through what she went through again. And this is where I close the book on this story. Thank you so much for watching my deep dive on Dreadweight. I can't wait to dive into the next one. Let me know what you think, or let me know what game you want me to deep dive into next, because I actually really liked this format, and I would love to do more like this. I'm Tabs, voice actor, streamer, and lover of all things indie horror. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.